They look at you and they see a surface. Manageable, predictable, simple. They categorize you, box you in, and assume they have your measure. They believe your mind is a placid lake, easily charted. What they don't comprehend, what they arrogantly dismiss, is the abyss beneath, the churning, chaotic, and terrifyingly potent depths where your true power festers. They don't know about your nightmares. Not the fleeting bad dreams, but the ingrained fears, the silent battles, the scars that whisper of survival. They think these are your weaknesses. They are catastrophically wrong. Because when those nightmares, honed in the crucible of your private hell, finally breach the surface, when they seep into the very fabric of their reality, their systems, their carefully constructed networks, that's when the illusion shatters. That's when they realize their fatal miscalculation. This isn't just about being underestimated. This is about the seismic shockwave you're about to unleash, fueled by the very things they thought would keep you broken. This is about how your deepest, darkest truths can and will infect and irrevocably alter every network you touch. Prepare for a reckoning, because their simple world is about to collide with the complex, terrifying, and unstoppable reality of your mind. The first, most pervasive error they make is clinging to the illusion of your simplicity. This isn't just a casual oversight. It's a fundamental misreading of human nature, especially of those who have walked through fire and emerged, changed. They see your quiet demeanor and label it passivity, not observation. They see your reserved nature and call it timidity, not strategic conservation of energy. They see your lack of ostentatious display and deem it a lack of substance, not a disdain for the superficial. This underestimation is born from a cocktail of arrogance, intellectual laziness, and often a deep-seated fear of what they cannot easily categorize or control. It's easier for them to build a network, a society, a corporate structure, a social hierarchy based on predictable surface-level interactions. Complexity is messy, depth is demanding, and so they skim. You, in turn, may have learned to wear the mask. Perhaps it was a shield, forged in environments where vulnerability was a liability, where authenticity was met with ridicule or punishment. Perhaps it was a means of navigating a world that seemed determined to misunderstand or exploit any perceived deviation from the norm. This mask, this carefully curated presentation of a simpler self, becomes a temporary refuge, but it's a dangerous one. It starves your true self of oxygen, and it reinforces their delusion. They interact with the construct, not the core. They build their strategies, their opinions, their entire operational framework around this false premise of your simplicity. Consider the case of Alistair, a mid-level analyst in a sprawling financial corporation. For years, Alistair was the gray man. He arrived on time, completed his tasks efficiently, spoke only when spoken to, and rarely participated in office politics or social events beyond a polite minimum. His superiors saw him as reliable, competent, but ultimately unremarkable, a cog easily replaceable. They assigned him routine work, overlooking him for projects that required innovative thinking or leadership. What they didn't see was the intricate internal world Alistair inhabited. He was a voracious reader of history, philosophy, and behavioral economics, his mind awhirl with patterns and connections they couldn't fathom. His quietness wasn't emptiness. It was a state of intense observation and analysis. He saw the subtle shifts in market sentiment, the unacknowledged biases in company strategy, the brewing storms that everyone else in their noisy self-importance ignored. His nightmare was a profound, almost painful awareness of systemic folly, a Cassandra-like burden of seeing impending crises that no one else would acknowledge. He tried to voice concerns obliquely in the past, only to be met with condescending smiles and platitudes. So he retreated further into his shell, his insights becoming a private, simmering reserve. Then came the market crash, a black swan event that blindsided the entire industry. Panic erupted. Executives whose models were based on simple assumptions were paralyzed. Their network of confident pronouncements and established protocols crumbled. In the ensuing chaos during a desperate late-night meeting, a junior executive, scraping the bottom of the barrel for ideas, offhandedly asked Alistair if he had any thoughts. The room, expecting a mumbled negative, fell silent as Alistair, for the first time, let the mask slip. He didn't raise his voice, but his words precise, informed by years of silent observation and deep thinking, cut through the noise like a scalpel. He laid out not just the current predicament, but a series of cascading consequences and potential mitigation strategies that were breathtaking in their clarity and scope. He spoke of historical precedents they'd forgotten, of psychological traps they'd fallen into. He referenced obscure data points he'd been tracking for years. The simple cog revealed himself to be a strategic mastermind. The infection had begun. Their network of panicked incompetence was suddenly penetrated by a voice of profound, unexpected lucidity. The danger for them in their prolonged underestimation was not just that they missed out on his talent for years, but that their entire system was unprepared for the kind of shock that Alistair's nightmare, his deep, unsettling insights, was uniquely equipped to address. The brutal truth is, their comfort depends on your perceived simplicity. Your complexity, your depth, is a threat to their neatly ordered world. But you are not obligated to remain a footnote in their narrative. The first step in harnessing the power of your infected network is to acknowledge the mask you wear, to understand why it was created, and to begin the conscious process of dismantling it, not recklessly, but strategically. It's about recognizing that the depths they ignore are not your shame, but your arsenal. Stop validating their superficial assessments with your continued silence or your carefully managed persona. Let the cracks in the facade begin to show. Let them glimpse the fire and the ice that coexist within you. Their discomfort is the first sign that the infection is taking hold, that their illusion of your simplicity is beginning to fracture. Now let's descend into the source of this incredible disruptive power, your nightmares. When I speak of nightmares, I'm not referring to the fleeting terrors that jolt you awake at 3 a.m., though those too can be whispers from the subconscious. I'm talking about the bedrock of your most profound struggles, the experiences that carved canyons into your soul. These are the traumas, the betrayals, the failures that brought you to your knees. These are the searing anxieties, the chronic insecurities, the societal rejections that made you question your worth, your sanity, your very right to exist. These are the confrontations with your own shadow, the parts of yourself you were taught to despise or disown. For too long, you've been told these are your deficits, your damage. the things to be overcome, suppressed, or medicated into oblivion. Society, in its relentless pursuit of an airbrushed, sanitized version of humanity, has no place for the raw, unvarnished truth of these experiences. They want you healed in a way that means return to simple, return to manageable. But here lies another brutal, empowering truth. These nightmares are not your breaking points, they are your forge. Within their searing heat, true strength is tempered. Not the brittle bravado of ego, but the unyielding resilience of a spirit that has stared into the abyss and refused to blink. The path to harnessing this power isn't about eradicating these nightmares. You cannot unlive your life. You cannot unfeel your deepest pains. The attempt to do so is a futile war against yourself, a war that only strengthens the very shadows you seek to banish. Instead, the journey is one of integration. It's about turning towards these internal demons, not with aggression, but with a courageous curiosity. It's about acknowledging their existence, understanding their origins, and most crucially, extracting the potent wisdom they hold. This is where a stoic mindset becomes invaluable. Not the caricatured stoicism of emotionless suppression, but the profound wisdom of accepting what is, of finding the opportunity within the obstacle. Your nightmares are the obstacle. Your task is to transform them into fuel. Amor fati, love your fate. Love even the darkest chapters, for they have made you who you are. Consider Lena, a woman haunted by a crippling fear of public speaking. This wasn't a mild discomfort. It was a full-blown phobia rooted in a childhood incident of brutal humiliation in front of her entire school. For years, this nightmare dictated her choices. She avoided promotions that required presentations, stayed silent in meetings even when she had valuable contributions, and felt a constant, gnawing shame. Her network, her professional and even social life was constrained by this unseen terror. Conventional advice told her to just get over it, which was as helpful as telling someone with a broken leg to just walk it off. Then, through a period of intense self-reflection, perhaps therapy, perhaps a stoic practice of dissecting her fear, she stopped trying to destroy the fear. Instead, she began to understand it. She revisited the memory, not to re-traumatize herself, but to defang it, to see it from an adult perspective, to grieve for the child who endured it. She realized the nightmare wasn't the fear itself, but the power she had given it over her life. Slowly, painstakingly, she began to reframe it. The sensitivity that made her so vulnerable to that humiliation was also the source of her deep empathy. The hyper-awareness born from fear could be channeled into meticulous preparation. She didn't magically become a fearless orator overnight. Instead, when she finally started to speak up, first in smaller, safer settings, she didn't try to be slick or polished. She spoke with a raw authenticity that included her vulnerability. She might even acknowledge her nerves. And something incredible happened. People didn't see weakness. They saw courage. They saw humanity. Her nightmare, once a source of paralysis, became the very thing that allowed her to connect with audiences on a profoundly human level. Her words, because they were forged in the fire of genuine struggle, carried a weight and sincerity that no perfectly polished, fear-free speaker could replicate. She had integrated her nightmare, and in doing so, had turned it into a unique, undeniable strength. The infection here was an injection of raw honesty into sterile professional environments. People listened, not just to her ideas but to the truth of her journey. This is the alchemy. Your pain, your fear, your trauma, when met with courage and integrated with wisdom, doesn't just make you resilient. It makes you relatable, it makes you deep, and it makes you incredibly, unexpectedly powerful. It imbues you with a unique perspective, a creative edge born from navigating terrains others daren't even imagine. Your nightmares are the dragon's hoard, terrifying to approach, but laden with unimaginable treasures once you find the courage to face the beast. So how does this internal alchemy, this transformation of personal nightmares into personal power, begin to infect the external network? What even is this network we speak of? It's multifaceted. It's the web of your social relationships, your family, friends, colleagues. It's the professional environments you navigate, your workplace, your industry. It's the broader systems of belief and societal norms that dictate so much of our collective behavior. It can even be the digital landscapes where so many now live and interact. This infection isn't a malicious contagion in the traditional sense. It's the unstoppable, often disruptive, spread of your authentic, transformed self. It's what happens when the depth you've cultivated within can no longer be contained and begins to exert an undeniable influence on everything and everyone around you. It's your truth becoming a virus to their falsehoods, your resilience a challenge to their fragility, your complexity a solvent to their simplistic narratives. The mechanism of this infection is subtle yet profound. It's not necessarily about loud pronouncements or aggressive confrontations, though there may be times for unvarnished truth. More often, it's in your changed energy, the quiet confidence that radiates from someone who has faced their inner demons and emerged, not unscathed, but whole. It's in the unshakable conviction in your eyes when you speak your truth, a truth born from hard-won experience, not borrowed opinion. It's in your newfound inability to tolerate superficiality, to participate in the charades that once seemed mandatory. When you stop playing their games, you change the game itself. When you embody a different way of being, more authentic, more resilient, more deeply aware, you become a walking, talking disruption to the status quo. You become a question mark to their established answers. Imagine Marcus, a man who spent years battling a severe gambling addiction, a nightmare that cost him his savings, his relationships, and nearly his sanity. He hit rock bottom, a desolate place of shame and despair. But in that abyss he found the first spark of a will to change. The recovery process was brutal, a daily war against compulsion. He joined a support group, a small network of fellow strugglers. Initially, the group was somewhat formal, members sharing carefully curated versions of their struggles, hesitant to reveal the true depth of their shame. Marcus, having stared his own ugliness in the face, found he had little patience left for pretense. One evening, with a rawness that stunned the room into silence, he didn't just talk about his lapses. He described the visceral craving, the self-loathing, the desperate, irrational hope that fueled each bet. He spoke of the nights he slept in his car because he'd lost his rent money, the lies he told his family. He didn't do it for shock value, but because he was done hiding. His unvarnished testimony was like a stone dropped into a still pond. The ripples were immediate. One by one, others in the group began to open up, sharing their own unspeakable truths, their deepest fears and shames. The polite facade of the group shattered, replaced by a raw, messy, and profoundly healing authenticity. Marcus's willingness to expose his nightmare had infected the network of the support group, transforming it from a place of polite commiseration into a crucible of genuine transformation. Their collective healing accelerated because the infection of radical honesty had taken root. This is how it works. Your courage to live your integrated truth gives others permission to do the same. Your resilience in the face of your past nightmares inspires those around you who are still captive to their own. When you refuse to be diminished by your scars, you challenge the narrative that scars are to be hidden. The network, be it a small group, a company culture, or even a community, begins to shift, often uncomfortably at first. There will be resistance. Those invested in the old ways, in the illusion of simplicity and control, will feel threatened. They may try to discredit you, to isolate you, to reassert the old norms. This is a sign the infection is working. It means your truth is hitting a nerve. It means the antibodies of the old, sick system are trying to fight off the cure. Don't mistake their resistance for your failure. It is, in fact, evidence of your emerging power. The very fabric of their reality is being rewoven by the threads of your undeniable, hard-earned authenticity. Your inner world, once a private battlefield, is now reshaping the external landscape, one uncomfortable, liberating truth at a time. The crucial pivot, then, is to move from being a passive carrier of your nightmares to actively, consciously owning your infection. It's about recognizing that the profound, often painful experiences that shaped you are not liabilities to be minimized, but unique signatures of your power, the very source of your capacity to influence and disrupt. This isn't about reveling in past suffering or wearing your trauma like a badge of honor for pity points. It's far more strategic, far more potent than that. It's about wielding the wisdom, resilience, and unique perspective gained from those experiences with intention and precision. You are no longer a victim of your inner world. You are an agent of its incredible influence. Perceived weaknesses, when understood and integrated, transform into unstoppable strengths. The first step in this ownership is radical self-acceptance. This means looking squarely at the nightmare aspects of your past, your personality, your shadow, and declaring, "This too is me, and this is where my power lies." It's about ending the internal war. The energy you once spent suppressing or denying these parts of yourself is now liberated for constructive, assertive action. This isn't an overnight process. It's a commitment to ongoing shadow work, the courageous practice of identifying, acknowledging, and integrating those disowned parts. Journaling, honest self-reflection, perhaps seeking guidance from a therapist or a mentor who understands these depths. These are tools, not crutches. Next comes the cultivation of authentic communication. If your nightmares have forged you into someone complex and deep, then you must learn to articulate that depth. This doesn't mean oversharing every traumatic detail with every casual acquaintance. That's not strategic. It's often counterproductive. It means learning to express your truth, even the uncomfortable or unconventional parts, with clarity, conviction, and appropriate context. It's about knowing when a glimpse into your journey can shatter a harmful stereotype, open a closed mind, or forge a genuine connection. It's about speaking from your scars, not your wounds. A scar is a testament to healing and survival. A wound is still raw and vulnerable. Speak from a place of integrated strength. Consider Anya, a visual artist whose work was consistently described by mainstream galleries as too dark, too unsettling, too niche. Her art delved into themes of existential dread, societal hypocrisy, and the fragility of the human psyche, themes born directly from her own intense nightmares of anxiety and disillusionment. For years, she tried to dilute her vision, to make it more palatable, more marketable, as per the advice of the network of gallery owners and critics. Each attempt felt like a betrayal of her core. She was miserable, and her work became sterile. Then, she made a conscious decision to own her infection. She stopped seeking approval from a system that clearly didn't understand or value her unique perspective. She embraced the darkness in her work, pushed it even further, making it more raw, more honest. She found alternative spaces, online platforms, independent zines, small, unconventional galleries, where her work resonated deeply with an audience that was starved for that kind of unflinching truth. Her infection of brutal honesty began to spread. Slowly, then with increasing momentum, her unique voice started to gain traction. The very network that once dismissed her began to take notice, not because she had changed to fit them, but because her undeniable impact forced them to reevaluate their own narrow definitions of art. She didn't just find her audience. She created a new space within the network, a space where her nightmares, transmuted into powerful art, were not just accepted but celebrated. She owned her infection and in doing so, bent the network to her vision. This leads to the concept of strategic disruption. Owning your infection means you understand its power to unsettle, to challenge, to provoke. You must learn to use this power wisely. Choose your battles. Not every outdated norm needs to be your personal crusade. But when a system, a belief, or a behavior directly impedes truth, justice, or genuine human connection, that's when you unleash the potent force of your integrated experience. It's about knowing when to reveal the depths of your perspective to maximum effect. And finally, with this acknowledged complexity comes the necessity of strong boundaries. Now that you are no longer feigning simplicity, they will react. Some will be drawn to your authenticity. Others will be repelled or try to exploit it. Your boundaries protect your energy, preserve your hard-won integration, and signal that you will not be manipulated or diminished. You define the terms of engagement with your now acknowledged depth. Your nightmares, once sources of private torment, have become the wellspring of your public power. You don't just carry the infection, you direct its spread, turning what they thought was your contamination into their unwilling but necessary transformation. And so we arrive at the aftermath, the new reality that dawns when they can no longer afford the luxury of ignoring you, when the infection of your true, complex self has irrevocably altered the network they once controlled with such surety. This isn't just about personal vindication. It's about a fundamental shift in the power dynamic. The consequences for those who consistently underestimated you, who dismissed your depth, can be profound. They are forced into a period of uncomfortable reassessment. Their simplistic worldviews, their neatly ordered categories, are shattered by the undeniable reality of who you are and what you bring. Some will resist violently, lashing out in an attempt to preserve their crumbling illusions. Others will retreat, unable to cope with a reality more complex than they are equipped to handle. But many, especially those with a capacity for growth, will be forced to adapt. They will begin to see you, truly see you, perhaps for the first time. This new perception won't always be comfortable. The respect you command might be tinged with a certain fear, an apprehension born from the realization that they misjudged you so profoundly. They now understand that beneath the surface they so casually observed, there lies a formidable strength, a resilience forged in fires they never knew you walked through. Your nightmares, the very things they might have pitied or patronized, are now understood as the source of an uncanny insight, an unshakable resolve. You are no longer easily categorized, no longer predictable. You have become an undeniable force. Think of historical figures, the paradigm shifters who were initially met with derision, persecution, or utter indifference. Galileo, whose observations challenged the geocentric network of the cosmos, was condemned. His nightmare was the burden of a truth too vast for his time. Yet his ideas infected scientific thought, eventually reshaping our understanding of the universe. Consider a more contemporary example, a whistleblower within a powerful but corrupt organization. Their nightmare is the internal conflict between their conscience and the organization's unethical practices. The decision to speak out is terrifying, fraught with personal risk. But when they release their information, their truth infects the network of secrecy and deceit. The organization is thrown into turmoil. Careers may be ruined, reputations shattered. The whistleblower might face severe repercussions. Yet often, their courageous act forces systemic change, accountability, and a new, more transparent operational reality. They are no longer a simple employee. They are a catalyst, their nightmare-fueled truth an agent of radical transformation. Living authentically in this new paradigm is both a liberation and a profound challenge. The liberation comes from no longer needing the exhausting mask of simplicity. You can breathe. You can be. The energy once spent on self-suppression is now available for creation, for connection, for purpose. However, the challenge lies in navigating the world as your true, complex self. The expectations are different. The responsibilities are greater. This power to infect, to influence, to disrupt, comes with an implicit demand for integrity. You've exposed the flaws in their network, the limitations of their understanding. Now, what will you build in its place? Will you use your hard-won strength to merely dominate or to elevate, to punish or to enlighten? The ultimate aftermath is not about gloating over their shattered illusions. It's about stepping fully into your role as a conscious agent of change. Your journey through your own nightmares has equipped you with a rare kind of wisdom, a deep empathy for suffering, and an unshakable commitment to authenticity. These are the qualities the world desperately needs. The network, be it your personal circle, your professional sphere, or the broader societal discourse, is now, to some extent, reacting to you. It has been altered by your presence, by the undeniable force of your integrated self. The responsibility is to ensure that this alteration leads towards greater truth, greater resilience, greater understanding. Your nightmares didn't just infect their network. They offered it a pathway to a more robust, more honest, and ultimately more human reality. The question is no longer whether they see you, but what they and you will do now that the blinders are off. The journey we've mapped is not for the faint of heart. It demands a brutal honesty with oneself, a courage to face the very shadows they, and perhaps even you, have urged you to ignore. They believed your mind was a simple, predictable landscape. They were fatally mistaken. Within you lies a universe of complexity, forged in the crucible of your deepest struggles, your most terrifying nightmares. These are not your weaknesses. They are the wellspring of an unyielding power, a unique frequency that, once unleashed, has the capacity to infect and fundamentally reconfigure every network it encounters. Stop apologizing for your depth. Stop shrinking to fit their shallow expectations. The illusion of your simplicity has served its purpose, perhaps as a temporary shield, but now it is a cage. It's time to shatter it. Embrace the entirety of your experience, the pain, the triumphs, the scars, the wisdom. These are the components of your arsenal. Your nightmares, when faced, understood, and integrated, do not diminish you. They distill you into something potent, something undeniable. The infection begins when you dare to live your truth, unvarnished and unfiltered. It's in the quiet shift in your presence, the unwavering conviction in your voice, the courageous authenticity that radiates from you. This will disrupt. It will discomfort. It will challenge the fragile foundations of their assumed realities. Let it. Their discomfort is merely the symptom of their network recalibrating to a higher, more honest frequency, yours. This is your call to action. Claim the power of your inner world. Own your nightmares not as liabilities, but as the unique codes that unlock your most profound strengths. Understand that your capacity to infect their networks is not a curse, but a profound responsibility. Use it to inject truth where there is deceit, courage where there is fear, and complexity where there is a dangerous, soul-crushing simplicity. They thought your mind was simple. Let them witness, with awe and perhaps a touch of terror, just how profoundly and powerfully wrong they were. Go forth and let the unshakable truth of your being become the beautiful, terrible, and transformative infection this world so desperately needs. Your reckoning is their awakening.